Hi everyone, in this video we will perform a test of two independent population means with population standard deviations unknown. So we are using a test that's going to compare two independent populations and we do not know their standard deviations. So for that reason, t-distribution is used and the test used is under stat. So select stat, go to tests, and it's option number 4. It's called two sample t-test. So hit 4, enter. And if the data is given for the problem, you would highlight data, hit enter. And this is what the screen looks like to enter the information. So you will enter the name of the lists where the data is stored. So list 1 for maybe sample 1, L3 maybe for sample 2, and frequencies we'll leave at 1 if it's not given, so which means that it's a singly listed data. If the frequencies are given, you would enter the frequencies in lists also and populate the names here. So you come down to then for the direction of the test, which is given by alternative hypotheses. Select the direction, come down to pooled, and we will say no under the assumption that the population variances are not equal. So pooled yes would mean that they are equal, but we will assume that they are not. Come down to calculate and hit calculate, or you are also able to draw the graph for the problem. Okay, let's go back up. And before we take a look at the second option, stats, let's see where to enter the data if we had data given. So you go back to stat, edit option 1, hit enter, and you get the list names. So you have various lists and you will find an empty list. If you don't have an empty list, you could always scroll up to the name of the list by up arrow, hit clear, enter, and that will clear up the list and start typing in. So you type in a number, hit enter each time after each value, and so on. So L1 could have sample 1 data, L2 could have sample 2 data, L3 could have frequency for sample 1, L4 could have frequency for sample 2. So you scroll right to find your other lists, and after you're done typing in, you go back to stat and go back to tests, option 4 again, and you will populate the list names here. So scroll down. So let's say our list 2 was in L2, not L3. So if you notice above the numbers are the list names on your calculator. So to access that, you will hit second 2 to get L2 and so on. Now let's go back and take a look at stats screen. So if data is not given, statistics are given, select stats, enter, and you have a different looking screen. So this time you will enter the statistics given for the problem. So X bar 1 as in sample mean 1 and standard deviation for population 1 for the sample size for the first population, and then all the information for the second population. So sample mean 2, standard deviation for that sample, and sample size for that. Come down and the rest of the screens are the same as data. So you select the direction of the test, pooled, and come down to calculate. So let's take a look. Let's go back to test again. 4 to get to the beginning of the test, and let's take a look at our problem to follow through. So this is the problem we are using. Let's go to problem 2. Okay, so we have two samples shown below. Both have normal distributions. The means for the two populations are thought to be the same. So that's your hypothesis. Null. Is there a difference in the means? This is your alternative hypothesis, which you're testing at 5% alpha significance level. So you have population A and B, and the sample size, sample mean, sample standard deviations given for both. So make a note of these values. Let's go back to our calculator and we type them in. So sample mean for the first population was 5. Its standard deviation was 1. So you type in and hit enter each time. Sample size was 25. Population 2, sample mean 4.7, standard deviation 1.2, and sample size was 16 for population 2. And we are checking for inequality. Are they different? So not equal to, highlight that, hit enter. Come down to pooled, no, enter on that. Arrow down to calculate and hit enter. And there's your result screen. So it gives you the t-score for the difference and the probability for it, the p-value, which is 0.4125. It also gives you the degrees of freedom. And if you come down, you have all the summary of the values that you had entered. Okay, so going back up again, and you can use this information now, the t-score or the p-value, to write up a decision and a conclusion of your hypothesis test problem. So in this case, p-value of 0.4125 being so large, we do not reject the null. And so that's how you test for 2 independent population means with their population standard deviations unknown on TI84.